Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be factoring polynomials to find real number solutions. Okay, so we're going to be factoring and then solving. So you're going to need your calculator and, book, please. All right, let's get started. Learning target today is that you can factor polynomials to find all real number solutions. Right, get that in your notes for me, please. Idea here is to use all the factoring that we have learned in order to solve for real solutions, so our numbers. So greatest common factor, grouping, AC, difference of squares, difference in sum of cubes. Okay, all those things we're going to be looking at in order to solve our problems. So I'm going to give you guys 4 examples. All 4 examples need to be put into your notes, please, and thank you. All right. Here we go. Example number 1, factor completely and solve. So the first thing that we have to look at all of these, you guys, is that we're looking for that greatest common factor. Here my greatest common factor is going to be 2 and x cubed. All right. So when I'm looking at this, I'm going to take out 2x cubed, and I'm going to be left with x squared minus 9. Now, we have to look, you guys, we're going to be able to factor things a lot more than just one time usually. So if we look at this right here, this can be factored again because it's a perfect square. So I have my 2x cubed, then I also have x plus 3, and x minus 3 equals 0. Now, once I get here, I can't factor any further. I need to set all of these things equal to 0. So I'm going to have 3 different problems to solve for my variable. I have 2x cubed equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. I'm just going to go through and solve each one of these. So this one I would divide by 2. So x cubed equals 0. Then I'm going to take the cube root, because I have a cube, and I'm still going to get x equals 0. So there's my answer there. This one I'm just going to subtract 3 from both sides, so x equals negative 3. And my last one I'm going to add 3 to both sides, so x equals 3. Now we're only solving, you guys, when we have an equal sign, so that's something to be aware of. There's example number 1. Moving on to example number 2. Here it is. Now this one has 4 terms, so right away we're like, okay, grouping. But first we gotta check for greatest common factor. If we look at this one, all of them don't have a greatest common factor, so I'm gonna break it into my 2 parts. My first one, I can take out an x squared. So I get x squared, x minus 3. My second one, I can take out a negative 16, because that negative is out in front. We don't want that. So I have negative 16, and I have x minus 3. We're in good shape because these are equal to each other, which we want. So I have x minus 3 and x squared minus 16 equals 0. So we're here, but this, ladies and gentlemen, can be factored again. It's a perfect square. So I'm going to have x minus 3, x plus 4, and x minus 4. So I have all of these. Now all 3 of these need to be set equal to 0. So I have x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, and x minus 4 equals 0. Solve each one of these. This one I'm going to add 3. So x equals 3. This one I'm going to subtract 4. So x equals negative 4. And my last one I'm going to add 4. So x equals 4. I'm going to get 3 answers. And a good idea to you guys to see how many answers you need to get is by looking at the degree. Okay, that largest exponent. That's going to tell you how many answers you will receive. Okay, moving on to example number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. I have 3 terms here, so that makes, I'm going to use AC method. But before I do that, we have to look for that greatest common factor. And in this one, I can take out an x out of all 3 of these. So we can put that x out in front. We're left with x squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 0. Now I'm going to do my AC. Remember, we can keep this out till the end, but we can't forget about it. Okay, that's super annoying, brother or sister. Can't forget about them. So we have x and a y. So, sorry, x and y. Excuse me, a, c, and it has to add up to b. So I have 1 times negative 12, which is negative 12. I have to come up with two factors that add up to negative 4. All right, for this one, we're going to use negative 3. And, excuse me, negative 6 and 2. Negative 6, positive 2. So I'm going to rewrite this. I have x squared minus 6x plus 2x minus 12. Once I get here, I'm going to do my grouping, break it apart. This first one, I can take out an x. So I'm left with x minus 6. The second one, I'm going to take out a 2. So I have x minus 6. They're the same, which is wonderful. We're going to rewrite this. So I have x plus 2 and x minus 6. And then I can't forget about my x out in front. Set equal to 0. Now I have these three. I need to set all of them equal to 0. So I have x equals 0. I have x plus 2 equals 0, and I have x minus 6 equals 0. Well, this first one's done. Second one, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides, so x equals negative 2. And the last one, we're going to add 6 to both sides, so x equals 6. All right, there's example number 3. Now on to our last example for the day, ladies and gentlemen, example number 4. So when we start this one, you guys, before we can solve it, it has to be set equal to 0, and it has to be in standard form, which means largest exponent to the smallest exponent. So we're going to move this over here by subtracting 14x cubed. Rewrite it, so I have 2x to the 5th minus 14x cubed plus 24x equals 0. First thing again, you guys, you have to look for greatest common factor. This one I can take out a 2x out of every single one of these. So I have 2x out in front, and I'm left with x to the 4th minus 7x squared plus 12 equals 0. Now I'm going to do my AC. This we can leave till the end, but we can't forget about it. So my ACB, I have 1 times 12, which is 12, and it has to add up to negative 7. Now this one we're going to use negative 4 and negative 3. Come over here, rewrite it. So I have x to the 4th. Minus 4. Now this has to be x squared, because that's what's up here, you guys. Minus 3x squared plus 12 equals 0. Break this apart. Break apart my first one and my second one. And I do this, I can take out x squared out of the first one. So I have x squared left with x squared minus 4. Second one, I can take out a negative 3. So I have x squared minus 4. My factors here are going to be x squared minus 3 and x squared minus 4. And then we can't forget about that 2x. But I'm not done here because I can factor this one further. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. So I have 2x. X squared minus 3, which can't be factored because 3 isn't a perfect factor. But this can break down to x plus 2 and x minus 2. Now we have to set all 4 of these equal to 0. So I have 2x equals 0, x squared minus 3 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to solve each one of these. So this first one I'm just going to divide by 2. So x is going to equal 0. There's my first answer. This one I'm going to add 3 first. And I have x squared equals 3. To get x by itself, I'm going to take the square root. So x equals, when I take the square root, you have to put plus or minus. So there's 2 answers there. The square root of 3. Next one I'm just going to subtract 2. So x equals negative 2. And last one, I'm just going to add 2. So x equals 2. Now, I have 5 answers here because I have 2, negative 2, plus and minus square root of 3, so that's 2 answers, and 0. If I look at my exponent, it's a 5. That's where those are coming from, all right, ladies and gentlemen? That is your last example. Now, I'm going to go through this summary. You don't have to write this down, but just a heads up, make sure we know what we need to do. Steps. First thing you have to do is put your polynomial in standard form, okay, and equal to 0. So largest exponent to the smallest one. Second one, you have to factor completely. Factor all the way through. Sometimes it's going to be just one way of factoring. Sometimes it's going to be 3. Okay, third step, is you have to set each factor equal to 0, every single part. And then our last step is we're going to solve each of those factors for that variable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all that I have for you today. So I hope you go out, enjoy the world, and I will be seeing you soon. Bye. Bye.